SKA is global. And this is a contribution, and what you're seeing behind us right here, all the infrastructure, all of the dishes, that's contributions from our member countries across the globe, and they're working together in terms of the design as well as the manufacturing, and then of course the installation here on the site in the Karoo. We'll talk a little bit more about the member countries, but just in terms of general progress on the site. So we've started with, as you can see, Lindsay mentioned, we've got these long baselines. So in this core area, we've got the Meerkat National Park where the majority of the dishes are going to be. And then we've got these 3 spiral arms which go out to 150 kilometers in different directions. And we've got to build all the infrastructure. So things like the new roads, we have to rehabilitate existing roads. You can see these big foundations behind us here. There's a lot of power and fiber to be able to transmit and power up the ditches and transmit data back to the correlator beamformer in the shed. So it's hundreds of kilometers of buried cables, buried fiber that's going in here. And in general, in terms of infrastructure progress, we're currently at about 75% completed. So what you're seeing is just what's happening in the core. But what you're not seeing is 150 kilometers outside here. It takes us about 2 hours to get to the end of a spiral arm. And the teams are very busy there with the infrastructure. And that's a proudly South African, the infrastructure is being built by a South African company. And it's also a lot of the design work for the infrastructure is also South African. So what we've got at the moment in terms of progress, we've got 5 SKA mid dishes up. You can see some of them in the background there. This is one of them. There's a few scattered around here in the core area. We're making really good progress in terms of the construction of the dishes as well. So a lot of the teams are now involved in the integration and verification of the different subsystems and getting the hardware and the software to talk. Interestingly enough, that dish behind us here, we had what we call the first heartbeat in July. We started cryogenically cooling the receiver, the Bantu receiver, and you could hear this tick, tick, tick. And if you stand close to the dish, you can actually hear that tick, tick, tick. And that's cryogenically cooling down these receivers to incredible amounts so that we can receive these very faint signals from the cosmos and try and limit noise that the dishes are receiving. Then, of course, a few weeks back, as Lindsay mentioned, neutral hydrogen gas, we did our first drift scan on the dish, and we received our first hydrogen signal. And that's really fantastic in terms of what it means. It means that the whole signal chain is working, and what we're pointing at and what we're looking at actually works. So I think that's a significant milestone for the team to get what we call first light and this early detection of neutral hydrogen gas. If we turn to the actual dishes, these dishes are slightly larger than the Meerkat dishes. So you mentioned the Ponso 13.5 litre Meerkat dishes. These dishes are 15 meters in diameter, so a larger collecting area. And then we've got that big sub-reflector in the background there, that's 5 meters in diameter. So this whole dish structure weighs 55 tons. So you can imagine the weight that we buff here and this big foundation that's got to keep the dish stable, and it's got to be very limited movement. In terms of the actual dish structure, so we've got the pedestal, the backing structure, the main reflector, the sub-reflector. That's been designed and manufactured and installed by one of our member countries, China. So they've been heavily involved in this, and what you see now is the Chinese contribution to the SKA mid telescopes. We've got a number of receivers, so you can see there's like a little carousel there, and what we're going to do is we're putting 3 feeds and receiver units on the SKA mid dish. And at the moment, we've got a South African designed and manufactured feed by EMSS. It's a company that's manufactured the feeds and receivers for Meerkat, who are also busy with the C2 receivers for the SKA mid dish. We've got the Band 1 feeds that's being designed and manufactured in Sweden. And then we've got Band 5. The feeds are being manufactured in Germany, and then the receiver units manufactured in South Africa. You've got these huge helium compressors at the top of the dish, and the cryogenic coolers that are here as well. That cools down the dish, or the actual receivers, and that's a contribution by the United Kingdom. The sub-reflectors are currently produced in China, but the remainder of these big sub-reflectors are going to be manufactured in Spain. Then what we've got here inside this pedestal, or the big pedestal, it's really a shielded compartment where all the electronics are housed, so that we don't cause any interference with the dishes. So the actual shielded cabinets are also manufactured by a South African company, ITC Services. And then we've got the synchronization, timing and frequency distribution. That's all done by the United Kingdom, Spain, Switzerland and Australia. So it's really a collaborative global effort to deliver the MID telescope. Just in terms of community engagement, I think this is a really important part for us in terms of sustainability and local economic impact. For the SKA MID telescope, what we've done is we've focused on 4 towns that are surrounding the site: Carnarvon, Williston, Brunflay and Van Wyksvlei. We've set up these huge databases. We've been engaging with a lot of the local subcontractors, getting them on board. And at the moment, we've got, from a construction perspective, about 300 work opportunities that have been awarded, majority for the infrastructure work. We've done a lot of training for the SMMEs, 6-month training in terms of financial management, health and safety, and trying to develop sustainable businesses so that once construction is completed on SKA MID, that enables the SMMEs to be able to participate on other projects in the local area. So at the moment, as I say, 300 people are employed, and it's really great. We also see a number of the community members from Carnarvon that are actually involved with the CTC 54 team, with the actual assembly of the dishes. So it's also the local Carnarvon community is responsible or participating in that.